Hello and welcome to Pain in the Podcass, your place to find out everything you've ever wanted to know about pain. My name's Dr. Joseph Parsons, and I'm joined by the wonderful Don Widgesoria and Dr. Joshua Craw. And today we're going to be asking, do I need a scan? Welcome in.
Hello and welcome to Pain in the Podcass. This is your fortnightly hit of pain relief. Hopefully, you've all listened to other episodes already, but if you're new to Pain in the Podcass, welcome. This week, we are looking to tackle a very important topic. Do I need a scan? Yes, but first, I think we do have some housekeeping to take care of.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, which is our interesting facts and the things that we've learned about ourselves this week. Should I go first? Yeah, why not?
Yeah, go for it, Josh.
Yeah, so maybe not an interesting fact. We've heard a lot of things about what I feel like I'm good at. Now's time for something that I am absolutely abysmal at. So my interesting fact for this week is that I am absolutely abysmal at golf.
Can confirm.
Yeah, I've tried it. Like, it makes sense in my head. I don't know why, but I cannot get the ball more than 20 feet at best.
That's a good start.
I think you got it 100 yards a couple of times. It obviously did bounce along the ground quite a lot.
Yeah. I think I could do better with a putter than I could with a driver.
I don't think you're wrong there.
For the first shot?
Yeah.
Okay, that's...
On flat ground, I think you can get further with a putter.
I'm not talking about putting. I'm talking about driving. Yeah.
I think, yeah. I mean, you're either swinging over the ball or you're using the club as a shovel. So.
Yeah. The last time Joe and I went to a driving range, I think in the last 3 balls, I sort of got it, and then we just stopped and we haven't been since. So.
Yeah.
I've had worse experiences at the driving range. I once hit it just straight up into the ceiling.
Oh, yeah. And then it dropped straight down in front of you.
Straight down in front of me,
Yeah.
twice in a row. And the guy next to me just came over and was like, would you like to learn this new technique that's much better? I was like, yes, please. Teach me your ways. Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, I now know what I'm doing wrong.
Can you do it right?
We're getting there, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting fact about myself is I like photography. I like taking pictures. I like being behind the camera. That sounds strange. I just like taking pictures, and the one that I'm currently using, the camera that I'm using right now, is my dad's old film camera, which is older than I am. And yeah, it makes some really, really nice pictures. Joe's seen some of the pictures.
I have. I was there when some of them were taken.
Yeah, he was the subject of some of these pictures.
I was.
And yeah.
Did you photograph him like one of your French girls?
No.
Either way, my fact about myself this week is that I used to be in a band, and I'm going to leave fans of the podcast to do the digging to find us, but we don't exist, but the videos are still there, so I don't know whether to use are or were. We were /
Schrodinger's
are
cat.
on Spotify and YouTube. So if you want to go digging, you can.
I can confirm that Joe's band was pretty good, actually. I've listened to their entire
10-song back catalogue.
Yeah,
Not
entire
released.
back catalogue, yeah.
A lot of charisma on the stage. Yeah.
What was the name of the band again, Joe?
I said I'm not going to tell you.
Okay, fair enough. But if you search on Spotify, or if you just want to email the podcast, I will definitely tell you the name of that band.
They had some cracking songs, to be fair. Some
yeah.
bangers.
We once got threatened with being sued by 50 Cent's lawyer because there was another band in America that had the same name, and they were like, we had the name first, so we're going to sue you. And we were like, no. And then we found proof that we'd had the name first, and we're like, Uno reverse card. We won't be having any more problems. Thank you very much. Yeah.
What's happened to that band?
Oh, they still exist.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. My brother suggested that they had siblings in the band, so he suggested there might have been some sibling relations going on. I think he was just quite angry about the whole situation.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay then. So I suppose...
Sibling relations.
On that note, let's move on to what we've learned about ourselves.
Yeah, Joe, would you like to go first?
Yeah, we'll reverse order it. This week, I learned that I am the worst plant parent on earth. So I've been learning this over a long period of time, but now only one of my plants is actually kind of growing, and it's one that you literally it's a bamboo, so you just leave it in a pot of water in the sun and it survives.
But to be fair, I have the same exact plant, and mine doesn't grow anywhere near as fast as yours. So I don't know what you're doing to that, what you're feeding it.
Maybe
but
all
you're
of
doing
my
something
plant
well.
parenting is being just delivered exclusively to the bamboo, because
Yeah.
my other two plants that were alive are now dying, and one is dead, but I won't throw it out because I feel so sad. So I've just got a dead basil plant just moulding in my kitchen. Also, even more impressively, I managed to make a cactus die of thirst.
Oh, what have you been doing to these plants,
I
Joe?
think I forgot about it for about 18 months. I watered the other ones, but I put it on a shelf and then I put a book in front of the cactus, and now the cactus is dead.
So not only did it get no light, it also didn't get any water.
This is correct.
It sounds like some sort of torture technique, Joe.
It was not purposeful. I'm just a really bad plant parent.
Oh, jeez. I once had a basil plant in medical school, and my housemates killed it.
Purposely?
Yes. They poured boiling water into the pot.
Why?
Because, well, I'm not going to say the words on the podcast, but they wasn't very nice.
Wow.
All right then. And on that note,
More interesting,
what have
your
I learned about
learning.
myself? I've learned that with the help of an excellent teacher, aka Josh, I'm quite a good darts player. I've never really played darts. Well, I have. I've played it a handful of times, but I've never really tried and focused. And this time, good technique goes a long way.
Yeah, can confirm. Didn't need to say much to him. Just
Yeah.
put him in the right position, telling him to put his arm through. And
It's a lot of follow through. I didn't know he had
Yeah.
to follow through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don's follow through was so powerful that he would embed the darts quite deeply into the dartboard. About
It was a
an
struggle
inch
to get them
deep to
back
the
out.
dartboard.
Yeah.
Don's follow through was so bad that he had to change his trousers after.
Oh my gosh.
Boom.
Hey.
That's not what happened.
No, but on a serious note, Don does have some very good natural
Thank
talent
you,
when it comes
thank
to
you.
darts. I wouldn't say that lightly. The thing that I've learned about myself this week is the waiting for something is worse than the actual thing. And for a bit of context, those in the podcast, maybe if you've seen episodes in the future where I've successfully done something or what have you, I'm currently waiting for specialty training. So to find out if I'm going to have a job in a few months' time. Very nerve-wracking, and I find out in a few days. But yeah, the waiting's worse than a rejection, I think, at this point, because it's just the not knowing.
So podcast listeners, even though by the time this comes out to you, we'll already know the results of this, but if you can retroactively have crossed your fingers at this point while we were recording, just serendipitously, if you just felt that there was an aura, cross your fingers nice and tight right now.
If you're religious, if you want to say a prayer, whatever, I think I need it at this point. But I think that actually moves nicely into into the segment, into the podcast today, because we're talking about, well, what are we talking about, Don? We're talking about, do you need a scan, right?
Do we need scans? It's a question that many of us have asked. And yeah, Dr. Josh, do I need a scan?
Well, honestly, the answer to that question is really underwhelming. And the answer is, it depends.
Of course it does.
So, on what does it depend?
Well, every patient is different. They all come with different symptoms and what have you, and that's really what denotes whether we need to do a scan. For example, in the NHS, we actually have to do a whole host of other treatments or initiate treatments before we consider scans for a lot of conditions. And when it comes to pain, that's the same. So we have already talked about the World Health Organization pain ladder. If you come in with shoulder pain, we're not going to straight away send you for an MRI. We're going to try that pain relief, we're going to try physio, and all the things like that.
Taking that as an example, maybe I'm putting you on the spot here, but if you did come in with that shoulder pain, what are the kind of prerequisite signs there in that patient that make you go, maybe there's something more about this, maybe we should try and get some either like MRI or ultrasound, I don't know what you would use in that case, but what would be the kind of indicators for that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you, Joe. So the things that I personally, as a doctor, would be looking at is, well, okay, I'm going to break the veil a bit here. Doctors aren't great. We use acronyms all the time. We use one called Socrates. We use this for pain, which stands for site, onset, character, radiation, alleviating and exacerbating features, time, and severity.
That's just Socrates.
Yes, I always forget the other E. I always forget the other E. Sorry, guys. I'm a terrible doctor, obviously. But that tells us a lot about the pain, and from there we can see how severe it is and how worried we are about it. So, the site, obviously, okay, we're saying shoulder. Onset, was this a sudden onset where you was at rest? In which case, actually, I'm thinking, oh, this is a bit more serious. Or is it, like me, for example, you carried a heavy bag of shopping and now you've got pain?
Still.
Yeah, but the things that I would be looking at is, are there any signs of nerve damage?
Yeah.
So, particular patterns of pain. I'd be looking at muscle wasting. So that'd be a big indicator in things like, for example, MS.
Sorry, can you?
What do you mean by muscle wasting?
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I'm just assuming here. So if you have nerve damage that affects a certain muscle group, and you don't use that muscle group, what happens is the muscles atrophy and they start to waste. You see this in, for example, elderly people who don't exercise much anymore. We call it sarcopenia in that case.
So to put it really simply, it's like the breakdown of muscle, the loss of muscle.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
that's
cool.
it. We wouldn't see this acutely. So we wouldn't see this. Let's say you've torn your rotator cuff and now you've got some nerve damage. You can't lift your arm up. We wouldn't see that within a few weeks. We're talking about more months in terms.
Okay.
Yeah. So that to me as a doctor, let's say if you come to me with shoulder pain, you've got no history of any trauma or any thing that's caused that, and you're having the shoulder pain and you've had some muscle wasting, I'm going to start to think perhaps we need some imaging here.
Without a scan or anything like that, what does muscle wasting look like?
It's really difficult for me to explain. For the podcast, what I'll do is I'll put a few pictures into the notes so you can see that if you want. But I'll just show Don and
I can describe.
Don and Joe some pictures. Yes,
Okay.
I'm sure.
It's quite marked, isn't it? It's quite obvious when there's a big drop off in muscle.
Yeah. So
it's kind of like a lot of loose-ish, saggy skin.
Yeah. So you can see here. I'm showing a picture of a hand.
Wow, that is.
So you can see here. We call this like guttering, for example.
Okay.
Now, this could be an indicator of cancer. Let's say you're losing a muscle because your body's fighting cancer and it's using all the energy that you don't have. But also, if you've got a nerve issue there, let's say you've got a carpal tunnel syndrome, you can get muscle wasting there.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Interesting. I learned something really cool about carpal tunnel syndrome the other day.
Ooh,
as
what
part of my
did you learn?
course. I learned that there's a band of tissue that basically acts as a seatbelt for all the tendons that help to move your fingers, and that the nerve that gets trapped in this is what causes carpal tunnel syndrome. I knew that already. That was as far as my knowledge stretched. But that nerve also runs higher up in between two different bits of a muscle called pronator teres. So this muscle is involved in turning your hand over from having your palm up to having your palm down, that kind of flipping action of your hands. And so if those muscles get too big, it can also trap the nerves and create the same symptoms. So if you work in an Amazon warehouse or a similar packing job, you end up getting really strong muscles that turn over your hand, and you can get the same symptoms as carpal tunnel syndrome.
Ooh, that's very interesting. But back to what we were saying, so yeah, it really does depend on what your symptoms are. So I'd like to give another example, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one which I think affects most people in life at some point, and is in terms of people coming to the GP or into healthcare, is a really big one, and that's back pain.
22% of GP appointments. Remember that stat from previous episode?
22.
22% just for back pain alone.
That's 2 out of every 9 patients, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's
terrifying.
A lot. And yeah, so honestly, seeing back pain on the board of the patient I'm coming to see, it's a gut drop experience for me. And the reason is, there's going to be very little that I can do in that sense other than give some pain relief.
They call it heart sync, don't they? That's the classic.
Oh, yeah, not gut
kind of
drop, yeah,
terminology.
heart sync, yeah.
But yeah, gut drop as well. Josh
I go to the toilet straight away.
Shits in his pants. And his heart sync.
No, but the reason is people have come to A&E, let's say 3 a.m, because their back pain is at a point where they've never had this pain as bad as this before. Or you've got to a point where you just can't cope anymore. Let's go to the emergency department. Hopefully they can do something to sort this out. And the overwhelming majority of the time, there's nothing that we can do other than maybe give some stronger pain relief. And we'll have episodes in the future, but the drugs really don't work.
Yeah, I've been in that situation myself, specifically for back pain 3 times. Twice because I felt scared and didn't know where to go, and it was a weekend, so there were very few places open. Third time, I was sent there by my GP because they were like, it was also on a Saturday, but my GP started opening on Saturdays, so apparently weekend back pain is my favourite time for a flare-up. So they said to me, we've got to send you to A&E because there's nowhere else open that we can think of that's appropriate on a Saturday. And again, basically, just got told like you shouldn't be here, like you're wasting our time.
Oh wow!
That was probably the worst experience I had with the healthcare system. Was a nurse basically telling me that she said like I don't think you're in pain, was one thing, and she said that I shouldn't be here. I was wasting everyone's time, and really like honestly traumatic. Sometimes I kind of relive that moment if I'm walking through a hospital, which obviously like training to be a physio is not a rare occurrence for me to be going through or in a hospital, and I'll get kind of a bit of a flashback to that moment and just think like how heart-wrenching it was, to be honest.
And to be honest, it's I doubt that you want to be at the A&E.
Fuck no.
A&E's a terrible place to be. I remember one time I went during New Year's Eve or one of those days, either Christmas or New Year's Eve, and there was, I'm not even joking, there was a man without an arm. Like
You're kidding me.
Just a shoulder.
Recently, or was this like...
As in he just lost...
This was about 5 years ago.
This is like a traumatic accident. This isn't... He hadn't had a previous amputation.
It was like there was such a massive gash. A gash? Is that the right word?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the
no,
arm, so.
no. I've been listening to Chris Ramsey and Rosie Ramsey's podcast, and they use gash for a very different word.
Yeah.
So
but
now I'm just
gash
thrown
is...
off. But yes, very, very deep cut into this man's arm.
God, that's horrible.
That it was just hanging off.
We'd maybe go for a laceration if we were talking medically, but that's fine.
Yes, it was a gruesome laceration.
Yeah.
It's not like you want to see that.
Well, no, it's just the wait times as well.
The wait times, yeah.
The ED that I work in regularly has over 7-hour waits.
Yeah.
But I just want to, honestly, I just want to say on behalf of the NHS, really, that's absolutely awful. That shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And I want to take this moment here and just talk about what you can do if you're a patient and you've had a similar experience, because that should never happen.
Yeah.
There's a process called PALS, which is the way patients can put complaints in against either members of staff or departments if you feel like your care has been suboptimal, or in Joe's case, if somebody's told you that you're wasting time. That should never happen. I mean, we've said it's a heart sync thing for a doctor to see, but that doesn't mean that we don't and we shouldn't treat it any less serious. Yeah. If I see somebody who's got back pain, I do a full assessment. I don't really care what other people said. If they said, oh no, this was all normal musculoskeletal, we have to take it from, okay, you've come to ED and it's 3 a.m. Why have you done that? That to me is a red flag in itself.
ED is emergency department, not erectile dysfunction, as I've recently learned.
Although interestingly, one of the symptoms of spinal cord compression is erectile, well, not erectile dysfunction, but it's priapism, which is...
is that the curvy one?
It's an uncontrollable erection.
Oh, okay, that's not the curvy one.
Yeah, but in that case then, you might have come to ED and you might want a scan. You might think, I definitely need to scan my back. I feel like my spine's being compressed on. And I think that's a very legitimate concern, but there are symptoms that, as doctors, we look out for. And that's one of the reasons why it depends. So, if you're showing signs of nerve compression, so compression of the spinal cord, it is the only thing in my current hospital that we will do an MRI out of hours overnight for.
Yeah. It's an immediate response, but this is cauda equina, isn't it?
Yeah, we're talking about cauda equina. How much do you know about the quad recliner, Jeff?
Plenty, if you want me to tell you about it.
Yeah, why don't you explain to the viewers?
I know nothing, so
Yeah,
please.
well,
Okay, well, cord recliner is basically at the bottom of your spinal cord, around L1, L2 in your. So basically, like the top bit of your lower back, your spinal cord separates out from being a nice smooth kind of tube to being like a horse's tail. So it separates out into lots of different wires, and they come out of your spine and they help to supply your lower body. If you've got like a bulging disc or you've got any damage to your spine that causes those nerves to be pressed on, then you often present with symptoms like weakness around your kind of thigh region. You'll present with abnormal sensations in your butt, so you might not feel yourself wiping when you go to the toilet, and for ladies as well after they've peed. You might not be able to get or sustain an erection. You might not be able to ejaculate. You might not be able to sort of really feel anything all the way, kind of like a band feeling around your mid-thigh and up to the top of your hips. Like everything around there might feel numb. And if you've got any of these symptoms, they will send you for a scan immediately. If you've just got low back pain that's radiating to your legs, then they'll send you home with a symptom card. So this is like a card that says to you all those symptoms I've just listed about the anaesthesia and the inability to get an erection, etc. And they'll say to you, if you get any of these symptoms within the next 2 weeks, come back and we will scan you immediately. And actually, someone on my course, I think she's 23, had cord recliner this year.
Oh, wow.
It really, really rare. Like, just to say as well, for people listening and watching, incredibly rare condition, but because it's so potentially severe, that's why you're getting these immediate scans, because if it's not treated, and I shit you not, you sneeze too hard, you might sever your nerves in your spine. Like, it's that kind of, yeah, it's obviously like that's unlikely, but is that severe?
Does that affect a certain demographic, younger, older?
That's this Josh, over to
Yeah,
you.
so absolutely it does. It's more of it's definitely older people. You got to think about this. Why are you getting this back pain, and why are you getting compression onto the spinal cord? Most common cause of that is old age. Your discs in your spine deteriorate over your life. That's completely normal. You think about it. If you're a 60-year-old man, you've been working, and over those years, all that compressive damage onto the spine. You can get what we call disc avulsions. So, for example, a slip disc or a bulging disc, most common at the level of like L4, L5. So you might be lifting something heavy and then suddenly goes. Younger people typically don't have this issue because the spines should be in better health, so less risk of that acute deterioration. But it's not unheard of.
Just a very quick point though as well. The term slip disc, I'm gonna put my foot down here as a physio student and as someone who lives with pain. Really hate the term, and the reason being is that disc degeneration, as Josh says, like as you get older, it is normal. Like there's a study that found that by the age of 50, 80% of people will show some degree of disc degeneration, and 60% of people will show what we would call a disc bulge. So this kind of avulsion, these lumps coming out the side of your discs. And the vast majority of them don't present with pain. And so if they do then develop pain, often what clinicians will do is they'll look at the scan and they'll go, yeah, it's probably because of that. When actually there may be loads of other different factors contributing to the pain. It might be someone's psychosocial situation, it might be a rheumatological condition, but because there's some sort of result on a scan, they've gone, yeah, it must be that. Even when the disc bulge, for example, is in a completely different area of the spine. Like, I know people who have been told that their lower back pain is caused by bulges up in their neck. And they're like, oh, it's probably just like a weight transmission thing. And maybe it is, but like, it's a stretch to say with confidence to a patient, this is what it is.
Yeah, and that's why it's very important to treat every patient you see as not as a new patient, but with fresh eyes, and do a thorough examination.
Yes.
Because depending on where a bulge was in a disc or what nerves it was compressing, you would see symptoms that relate to that. Okay, so I think the next part, I think we wanted to talk about some presentations and whether that would actually require a scan or how urgent that scan would need to be done.
Okay. So let's start with someone. I'm going to use my own experience. Let's start with someone a bit more similar to me. Let's start with a young man with back pain.
Okay.
Right, let's say that they're. I'm going to flatter myself and make myself younger than I am. Let's say they're 25. And then let's add a few things that aren't about me. Let's pepper some things in.
Okay.
Say it's worse in the morning.
Yep.
But it gets better with exercise.
Gets better with
Doctor,
exercise, yeah.
what are you doing? Are you scanning me? And if so, what kind of scan?
Well, Joe, yeah, it really does depend on the symptoms, as I did mention earlier. I see a young man who's coming in with morning back pain, gets better with exercise. One of the top differentials, so the conditions that I'm thinking about, is ankylosing spondylosis or spondylitis. And for that, what I think in the first instance, we actually give you NSAIDs. So we'll give you some ibuprofen, probably send you on your way, see how that works.
Yeah.
Who pain ladder, doctors love it.
But am I right in saying, so ankylosing spondylitis, my grandfather had it.
Oh, okay, yep.
They call it bamboo spine.
Indeed,
right?
yeah. So let's say that now you've come back after a few weeks, it's not really helped, and actually the pain's waking you up at night and you're just really uncomfortable. Okay, so actually, yeah, I think you might need a scan, Joe.
Okay, what kind of scan are we having?
I think we're going to go for an X-ray first.
Why an X-ray?
Because you can see quintessential issues with the spine that indicate, for example, ankylosing spondylitis. As Joe mentioned, we call this one of the typical signs is bamboo spine. So what that looks like is when we'll share a picture that's freely available on the internet for people to see, but the spine doesn't look typical. It looks almost like a bamboo shoot.
Very, very straight.
Yeah. Also, in terms of what we're looking at, is we're looking for something called sacroiliitis. So your sacrum, which is the bottom of your spine, connecting to the ilium, which is like the hip bones, effectively. We'll see inflammation around there, and we can see that on X-rays. So that's very classic of ankylosing spondylitis. So in that case, an X-ray would be very appropriate as a first-line examination, first-line investigation. Can move on to more complex things like MRI, but in the first instance, we'd go with an X-ray.
Okay. Interesting. All right, another one. So this kind of does relate to me, actually. I kind of get shooting pains down my legs.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes when I'm sat down for more than about 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Yep.
And just like numbness and tingling in my feet.
Ooh, okay.
What do we do then?
Ooh, okay. So this is moving back to what we said about cauda equina, actually. So I'd be taking a furry history.
Mm-hmm.
I'd want to know things like any patches of numbness, any loss of bladder or bowel control, those sort of things that we're thinking about compression of the spine, but also a full neurological examination to find where I think this issue is. In this case, yet again, we're going to start with some basic analgesia. Who knew? We love it. And who knew was intended. I love my puns. But in this case, when we're looking for nerves, issues.
I wonder how many of them actually got that pun.
Who knows? Do you know what? I think our
Stop
viewers...
saying who. He's making a World Health Organization pun for any of you who, like me, didn't get it till the second time. Oh.
I think our viewers are smart enough to have picked up on that. Anyway, as I was saying, for things like the nerve pain that you've described there, we'd probably go for an MRI.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't sound like it's going to be an urgent one that we need. We will have a part 2 of this episode where we do talk about wait times.
Well, I think I'd argue otherwise. I think it's quite urgent. What makes it?
Well, yeah, you think it's urgent as a patient, obviously. Yeah. Like, if it was happening to me, I'd think it was urgent too. But in the absence of any red flag symptoms, so those symptoms that make me think about significant pathology that are potentially life or limb threatening, the history doesn't sound
All right.
too convincing
Okay.
to me so
I'll
far.
take that.
So yeah, you might be waiting a good few months for your MRI, and then it'll probably not show much anyway.
Nah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, and then hopefully by then your pain's resolved. That'd be nice.
Nah, wow.
I'm just saying that as a sort of this isn't the attitude doctors have, but it does help if people just fix themselves by themselves.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Let
Makes
nature
them
take its
very
course.
cheap.
It does.
Thinking of MRIs, by the way, just a little anecdote. So, in part of my chronic pain journey, they wanted to see whether they thought I might have Marfan syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
So people go look that up at home. But they thought I might have Marfan syndrome, and that's commonly associated with some heart defects. So they did a ultrasound on my heart, and they said, "Oh, we're a little bit worried, to be honest. It looks like one of your valves might be buggered. It looks like, yeah, you might have Marfan's and there might be something wrong. So we'll send you for an MRI." The MRI involved me having to hold my breath for approximately 30 seconds of every minute for an hour.
What?
What?
Wow, I did not know that you had to do this.
It slows your heart down, supposedly.
It will do, yeah, because
You're not getting an oxygen.
Well, you
Like,
think
at
it
first
speed
you
it up
do, but then it overcomes it. So your heart speeds up at first, and then supposedly it slows down and you get a more clear image. I don't know the science behind this, or maybe the cardiologist was just a sadist. But
I think that might be the case. I'd just give you a beat.
How old?
Your heart slow down.
How old were you when this happened?
22.
Okay, because that can, if a younger person was asked to do that, that can be really difficult.
Oh yeah, but it was really difficult for me. I've got terrible lung capacity. Like I was, when people will go swimming and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, how long can you hold your breath for?" I'm like, "About 8 seconds." So yeah, that was traumatic. But yeah, MRIs. There
An
you go.
hour?
An hour.
That must have cost a shit ton.
It's crazy.
Well, you got to think about it. The ultrasound machine doesn't cost too much. They're quite ubiquitous in the hospital.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
quite cheap compared to MRIs, CTs. It's more the time of the person doing it than the time it takes to report it, and
Yeah.
so on.
Okay.
No, the ultrasound was easy. The MRI was the hard
MRI.
part.
Oh, the MRI. So yeah, the
Yeah,
MRI is
yeah.
very expensive.
That is expensive.
Yeah.
Also, you can never turn an MRI off.
Ooh, I didn't know that one.
If you power off an MRI, like you risk damaging it when you turn it back on. So they run constantly.
Oh wow,
That seems like a major design flaw.
it does.
Well, I mean, but when was the last time you designed a giant magnet that can look through your body?
Well, if I was paid to, I probably
mean-
could.
I probably could.
I do have an engineering degree.
One massive claim here. Don could probably design a giant magnet. You know what, right? Patreon subs. If we ever get, how much do you reckon it take to fund Don building one of these? I'm going to say like 5 million.
I was thinking millions. Yeah.
Okay, if we ever manage to get some miracle £5 million in the Pain in the Podcast bank account, we are going to get Don to try and build a giant magnet that can image through people. But also we're not going to let him read any books about MRI. He has to do the research himself.
I think you'd get the Nobel Prize if I'm being honest.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean, and that'll bring in $1 million to recoup part of the 5 million we've lost.
Yeah.
Just a fifth. Okay. Yeah, challenge accepted.
Okay.
Wow.
Either way, do you want to know how MRI works?
Do you know what? Sorry. Yeah, I actually do. You know, I'm a doctor, but I think I've got a very basic understanding of how MRIs work.
So, I am going to read pretty much verbatim off my notes because otherwise I will get it wrong. So, as a lot of you will know, the human body is mainly made out of water molecules. So, 98% water, I think, is the stat.
I think it's closer to 70.
70% water. I don't know. 98%
76?
chimpanzee, 70% water. I don't know. We're made of a lot of water.
Is this
and
also
so-
verbatim?
This is verbatim, yeah. This is what my notes say. It says 70, 90, chimpanzee water. Yeah. So the water molecules are made up of hydrogen and oxygen, and in each of those hydrogen atoms there is something called a proton, and that's a small particle with magnetic properties. And so when we use these powerful magnets to scan people, it helps the body's protons to align in a specific direction, so it kind of pulls all your protons in one direction. And for me, it baffles me how we don't then just get launched into the top of the MRI scanner, but the science is beyond me for that. And they then fire short bursts of radio waves at the body, and that helps to disrupt this proton alignment.
Ooh, okay.
And then as these radio waves stop, the protons go back into that alignment as they're being drawn by the magnet. And this causes them to release radio signals. And the radio signals get detected by receivers, and they can work out exactly where that radio wave came from in order to give precise information about the protons in the body. And so that can help you to basically identify using very complex computer algorithms, exactly where different things in the body are. So it can help you to identify tumours, it can help you see tears in like tendons or ligaments, it can help you to see organs in really high contrast detail. Incredibly impressive and just like way beyond my scientific knowledge and my physics knowledge. But yeah, that's kind of a not very basic but basic version of how MRI works.
Yeah, I could build something better for sure. Yeah. Seems like a lot of unnecessary faff going on there.
Yeah, who needs protons?
Quick question,
Yeah.
unless it's going to be proprietary information that you can't share with our listeners, where's your start point for building your new version of MRI?
Well, I can't divulge that because they're in the patents and they've not been cleared yet. But
The patent that you've had registered in the last 4 minutes.
Don's lawyers are quick to the mark.
No
You
wonder
can
he's been
read my
tapping
mind.
away on that computer.
where would I start? Well, I wouldn't use protons. I'd just go with the neutrons.
Ooh.
That would be my
Non-magnetic
approach.
particles.
We don't need magnetism. Yeah.
What are we going to use instead of magnetism?
I'm going to take a book out of the dolphins. A book out of the dolphins. A page out of the dolphins book.
Remove the book from the dolphin!
They're learning too much. They'll take over the world.
I'm going to go with sonar. Sonar is the way. Basically just ultrasound.
I think Don is again trying to bait Josh into doing his dolphin impression.
It's never going to happen. Maybe I tell you what. If we get to 100 episodes, I will do my dolphin impression.
I really thought you'd just do it then.
No.
I'm absolutely not cutting that out of the edit though, because I need that on a recording that is publicly available, so I can hold you to this.
Let's see. That was not me. That was Don.
No, that's Josh.
Definitely wasn't. My dolphin impression is a little better.
Just a little bit.
Just a bit.
You're going to make them wait just for a little bit better.
Well, I mean, if you're there in 2030 and we've got 200 episodes, you can go back to episode 100 and have a listen to it.
Okay.
Oh God, I'm talking about the future. Oh,
That's scary.
that's freaky.
Anyway, right, shall we... There's other types of scans to talk about, and we kind of briefly touched on one already, right?
Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
did. What did we talk about?
Ultrasound.
Ultrasound. Let's do it.
When might we use ultrasound?
Well, ultrasound is a very good imaging modality. It's very good at looking at soft tissues. You already mentioned looking at the heart. So if you suffer with chest pain quite often, if let's say you're an older gentleman and you get exertional pain in your chest, well, first of all, I'd recommend going to get some blood tests and what have you. But if you've had all those done and they're all fine, you might be getting what we call an echocardiogram. Joe did mention this is an ultrasound of the heart. Helps to see if there's any defects. Another really good use of ultrasound is looking at the abdomen.
Babies.
Yeah, babies. That's what you use to check for babies.
When your pro goes.
Check for babies.
I'm sorry, you've got babies.
Is there a baby in this room?
No, but on a serious note, if you're one of our female viewers who has excessive pain, particularly around your period or having pain after sex, for example, we might consider doing an ultrasound to look for other causes of the pain.
Okay.
Things like ovarian cysts, things like, as a first line, I think we can use it for endometriosis.
Yeah,
But
before.
don't quote me on that.
Yeah, you need surgery for endometriosis, but it depends how severe it is, but some
Yeah.
people's you can see on an ultrasound for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And just other cysts like fibromas? Is that what
Yeah,
they're called?
fibromas.
Yeah, fibromas. These sorts of things, ultrasounds are really good at checking out. In addition to that, soft tissue injuries. So actually, you need to get a very specialised radiographer to do this, who's trained in MSK ultrasonography. But you can check for tendons as well.
Yeah.
An MRI is the best modality, but actually, if you're
Very talented.
very talented with the
Like
ultrasound
Josh.
probe, I am not. I am absolutely not. I think I've used an ultrasound once in my life.
No, I was just saying Josh is generally very talented.
No, I'm not.
I think he's trying to be humble.
I'm not. Just realistic.
Is that pie I can smell, Josh?
Um,
Or am I having a stroke?
I think you might be having a stroke, Joe. Has anyone got any aspirin? Yeah, so if you've got a torn ligament, for example, you can check that with an ultrasound. It's not the best modality, but it can be checked.
Cool.
Do you know, I'm always a bit sort of wondering how ultrasounds actually work. 'Cause it seems like a magic box to me.
Yeah.
It does, and I mean, all we see in media is just a bunch of gel being applied, and then someone just going at it with a probe. So, how does it all work? It's not just gel in a probe. An ultrasound scanner works by using sound waves to create images of the internal structure of the body. So we'll just go through a little bit of a step-by-step guide on how it works.
Sure.
So it first generates a high-frequency sound waves, that through a transducer, and I think
That's
that
the
is the little probe
yeah.
thing. The transducer is a handheld device that emits and receives these sound waves, so as they bounce across the body. So the transducer is placed on the skin, and the gel is applied to enhance the transmission of the sound waves, just make it, I guess, a smoother pathway for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the gel eliminates any air pockets between the transducer and the skin, so there's better contact.
Yeah. I also know an interesting fact about this.
Let's hear it.
If you use ultrasound on bare skin for too long, it can burn you.
Oh.
I also,
Causes tissue damage.
I also found out that if you use an ultrasound on bare skin, that the bear might bite you.
I was literally about to...
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
What does that say about me that I was going to make that joke?
He says that we spent too much time together.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. The gel.
So, next step, sound wave penetration. The generated sound waves travel into the body and encounter different tissues. So when the waves encounter a boundary between the tissues of different densities, some of those sound waves are reflected back to the transducer. And the next step is echo reception, where the transducer detects the reflected sound waves or echoes, and it takes the time taken for the echoes to return is used to calculate the depth and distance of the structure within the body.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. And step 5, image formation. The ultrasound machine processes the received echoes and creates a real-time dynamic image on the monitor. So that's kind of why you see a bit of a blurry image and there's a bit of a delay, but I'd say it's fairly close to real time. And the varying densities of tissues result in different shades of grey on the screen, forming a visual representation of the internal structures.
Ooh. Okay. And I guess like that means that if it's doing it kind of in real time, it means you can scan continuously, right? You can do it basically wherever you want, as long as you move the probe around and there's gel there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like one of the big indicators for an ultrasound is, for example, if you want to query appendicitis. So you can just see, does the appendix look inflamed? Is there free fluid in the abdomen? Like, is it a perforated appendix?
Or do you have to pay for it? We're all here for the puns today.
You know what? I just thought of a strange image when you mentioned that you could get burned.
It's not conventional burn, by the way. We're not talking like surface burns. We're talking like deep tissue damage that we're calling like a burn because it's done by thermal energy. But it's like deep burns, almost like it's like beneath your skin that you get the tissue damage.
Ah, okay.
Ooh, damn,
Usually. I don't know if you can get surface level ones. I'll Google it. Continue, Don.
But yeah, I just imagine, because these are like high frequency sound waves, I just imagined like a choir of really annoying babies just screaming.
Oh god, that's horrifying.
If anyone's watched the anime Full Metal Alchemist,
Full Metal Alchemist.
I think they'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've never
Oh,
seen
you
that.
can. You
Oh.
can get ultrasound burns.
So-
Like surface burns as well. I thought it was only
Oh.
beneath the tissue. But there you go.
That's quite nasty.
Yeah,
Hey, it's
so
a nasty burn, isn't
I
it?
think we'll share those on the.
I don't think we
episode.
will. They're quite traumatic.
I mean, I'm a doctor.
Explicit
I'm
content.
quite.
You could
You're
have
quite
desensitized.
numb to, yeah.
People can have a look if they want to. We've told you all the search terms you might need.
Okay, so we've got one more final step.
Yes.
The continuous scanning. The transducer can be moved to different areas and the process is repeated to obtain images from various angles and perspectives. And so this allows for a full comprehensive examination of the target area.
Can you make 3D images from that then? If you're doing it from multiple angles, can you use that to try and gain an
Stitch
idea
it all
of the-
together.
Yeah.
Theoretically, I guess.
Not that I'm aware of.
Although I feel like that would be a different scan.
Maybe.
Like, if you're using CTs, you can sort of make a 3D reconstruction. It's quite often used in trauma and orthopedics to look at fractures.
So, okay, what is a CT scan?
Yeah, so CT scan is effectively just lots of X-rays. I think, Don, you know a bit more about CTs than me, right?
Yeah. So CT scans, I think some of the older viewers might still call them CAT scans.
Which you could use on a cat if you could keep it still enough.
Meow. So these create a detailed picture of the inside of objects, like the human body. It's
Or cats.
or cats. It's like taking a series of X-ray photos from different angles. So the machine sends X-ray beams through the object, and the computer uses the differences in how the X-rays pass through to create a 3D picture. This 3D image is then shown as a series of 2D slices or cross sections on a screen. The quality of these pictures kind of depends on factors like how clear they are and the contrast between different parts. So that's kind of, those are really key. They kind of help doctors see details and variations in density, like in our organs and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So just to summarise those three modalities that we've looked at. So CT, it's just lots of X-rays, which make a 3D image from all those different slices. Ultrasound is, well, as it sounds like, we're using sound and effectively the echoes bouncing back to form an image.
It's like Don's sonar machine.
Yeah, maybe I did just reframe. Yeah, I did just
that's
use
what Don did.
But he mentioned neutrons, so
Yeah, I did
that's
mention
new.
neutrons.
£5 million. The research project begins.
And then
pending.
we've got the MRI, which nobody knows how it works apart from Joe, apparently, which is it bounces water about.
For me, it's tenuous. It is tenuous.
Yes, if you are somewhat interested in this, I'm sure you can research it further.
My Uncle Sam, my great uncle, Uncle Sam, he's American as well, funnily enough, or was. He
Fantastic.
passed away in 2001. It's okay, I barely knew him, but he lived a great life. He was one of the researchers. It's not magnetic resonance imaging, it's another type of magnetic imaging that basically does a similar process, but is used for certain cases. I can't remember, but either way, he was one of the physicists involved in developing that technology. So how exciting. Big shout out to Sam
Uncle
Williamson.
Sam.
Anyone listening from New York or Tokyo universities, he was a lecturer at both of them, so you may have heard of him. I think there's still grants for students, like bursaries for people, the Sam and Joan Williamson Awards. So
Wow.
how exciting. So good people. Very good people.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a fact. So next week you don't get a fact, Joe.
Oh no. Okay. Quick question as well. Thinking about that last one. So that was the three that we spoke about. When do you use a CT? Like, what's the common kind of? If I'm a patient coming in, is there any pain examples where I might have it, or is it used in other ways?
So CT is my favourite imaging modality.
Why is it your favourite?
I'm interested in emergency medicine, and it's quick and dirty.
Josh loves it quick and dirty.
I do. When it comes to imaging, anyway. It's very good at. Within a few minutes, you can scan somebody's entire body. You can see fractures. You can see blood. You can see a whole host of things. So in an acute setting, CT is great. It's great at ruling out a hemorrhagic stroke. So when you're bleeding in the brain, it's great at looking at broken bones. So let's say, for example, that you've had an injury months and months and months ago. An MRI might be able to give you a good indication of the total damage. I mean, an X-ray would be the first port of call, where you might want a CT as well.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the things that we do use a CT for is staging cancers as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So we might know, for example, somebody has lung cancer, but now they're getting lots of bone pain. Okay, well, that CT might help us to find where that rest of the cancer is really. It helps us treat, well, better treat is another word, because if you do have cancer that's spread, then unfortunately it is terminal.
Yeah.
So, do you know what? I think we've talked enough about the actual imaging side of it, and I think, what are the dangers involved in scanning? I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is radiation.
Yeah.
Like, how safe are scans to actually use?
The first thing that comes to my mind is the giant MRI machine that goes.
Yeah.
What is that?
Have you not been in an MRI machine?
I don't.
If
I don't
you'd
think
been in
I
one, you'd remember because they put giant headphones on you that are meant to be as noise cancelling as it can be, and you go in and it's like, ooh.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Sorry for everyone's ears at home.
Yeah, so in terms of radiation, I've got a bit of competition for Don and Joe here.
More things for the scoreboard.
Yes, and in fact, I've got some whiteboards here for you.
Yes.
So we'll just take a second just to get everything ready. Okay, so we're going to have a game. And Joe mentioned in a previous episode about how much radiation is in different foods. So for clarity, Brazil nuts are quite radioactive.
Yes.
Bananas are about 2/3 as radioactive as a Brazil nut. Still not very much, but
2/3 as radioactive.
yes.
So it's still quite radioactive.
Still quite radioactive.
Okay.
So my question is, how many bananas worth of radiation is in a chest x-ray?
A chest X-ray.
Yeah, the closest one gets the banana.
How many bananas worth? Huh.
There is a range, so whoever's closer to this range, or the middle of this range, I'll say.
I'm going rogue. I'm not going to look at what Don's written, even though we're sat next to each other. Turn my head away, turn my board away.
Okay.
Right.
I've
Are
got
you
one.
ready? 3, 2, 1.
I drew a banana.
0.5.
27 bananas.
Oh, jeez, okay. Why did you go 0.5, Joe?
Because we said that Brazil nuts were as radioactive in the previous one, more radioactive than a X-ray. Oh, it's a handful
no,
of
no.
bananas, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
It's
handful.
not one.
It's not one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so...
So not 0.5 bananas then.
I don't know if I can give either of you the points, but I suppose Don's technically closer.
Yeah.
What did you get?
He said 27. The
Right,
actual
what
answer
is
is
it?
between 200 and 1,000.
Okay. I was definitely closest, but that's a lot.
We were
of
both a
bananas.
factor of 10 out.
That is a lot of bananas.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I don't like bananas, so I am at no risk.
Okay, so to give people context on radiation, let's just say how many bananas would it be for the average daily background dose of radiation. So, for those that don't know, in our daily lives, we have radiation affecting us at all times. Very small amounts. But how many bananas would it take for 1 day's worth of the average dose of radiation?
That's the question.
Is that the next?
That is the question.
Right. Do I think that the daily dose is more than an X-ray? No.
Don't help Don out.
Do I think it's half of an X-ray? Probably still no, but I don't know how much it...
I can see that Don is now drawing more bananas. Actually, it's a very good banana.
Thank you.
Right, I'm going for it.
Oh, it's a bunch of bananas. Okay, let's show those answers.
I have stuck to
2,
my guns.
1.
27 bananas again.
14.
Ooh, Don takes it again with the 27.
Boom.
How many bananas?
It's actually 100.
100 bananas. So it's half an X-ray.
It's half an X-ray.
When I said, it's probably not half an X-ray. Fuck.
Yeah, unlucky Joe. So if you'd have put half an X-ray out, I'd probably give you the point.
I don't know why I keep rubbing 27 bananas out. I might as well just keep it for the entire thing.
Well, if you do that, that's going to drastically change.
The outcome of the game.
Okay.
Right, 2-0 Don.
Okay, the next one is a chest CT. So a CT chest.
Okay, do we get any context?
How many bananas?
Yeah, how many bananas?
Oh,
So I'll give you
mate.
some context. We've said that CTs are made up of multiple X-rays to formulate an image. I'm going to say you're going to have to put a lot more bananas down. That's my only clue.
But how many X-ray images form a CT? Okay.
You're the one who spoke about it. You should know.
Yeah, Don should get this one. It's 2-0 up.
Yes,
Come on.
I know everything.
I believe in myself here.
about CT scans. Okay, I'm gonna go with
20. I can see what he's writing in real time. Okay, are we ready? 3, 2, 1. 3,500 bananas.
2,700 bananas.
Oh, and Joe gets it.
Yeah! How
mean-
many bananas?
You were both grossly out still. Because it's 70,000 bananas.
Fuck. Okay.
I at least had a 7.
2-1. Get in.
Yeah, so you're about
Clawing
20
it
times
back.
less so far.
Gosh.
Question.
Yeah.
How many of these are there? How many do I have to claw it back?
You've got one more, and if you get this next one, I think we'll have to have a sudden death banana question.
Oh, I thought you just meant sudden death. One of you will have to die. Okay, so I have to get this one. Pressure's on.
Yeah. So, this next one. How many bananas is it additionally for living near to a nuclear power station for 1 year?
How many extra bananas?
For 1 year?
1 year.
Yeah.
How close? Are we like talking like next
Yeah.
door neighbour?
We're not talking about sitting on the reactor.
Or within like... Okay.
Let's say you live next to a city that uses nuclear power.
We live next to a city.
No,
that
you live in a
uses-
city that uses nuclear power. So
In the
there's
city,
a nuclear power station that you can see. Let's say Springfield.
Okay.
In the Simpsons.
In The Simpsons.
All right, okay.
Well, maybe not, because that's probably a lot more radiation.
This is going to be difficult.
For a year.
100
Indeed.
a day was the normal. So that's 36,500 is the normal background dose.
Joe, you're talking too much because now that's severely altered my answer.
Ooh, some game playing.
I was going to go with millions. I don't think it's going to be millions anymore. Or maybe that was a setup by Joe. Huh. Okay.
3, 2, 1.
2.7 million bananas.
Keeping with the 27 theme, I've said 108,000 bananas.
Ooh.
One of you is significantly closer than the other.
Oh,
It's Don, isn't it?
And it's Joe.
Yeah!
God damn
How many bananas?
Between 1 and 100.
1,000. 1 and 100?
Just 1 and 100
That's it.
for the entire year.
So I was, again, multiple factors of 10 out.
Wait, that doesn't compute. Wait, so you're living next to a city?
And you only get a tiny bit extra.
Yeah, so
You get 100th of a daily dose.
100th
Or up to a daily dose.
up
over
to a
the course
daily
of the
dose
year.
per year.
Wow.
That's because I think that just goes to show how good they are at shielding nuclear power stations and how safe they actually are.
Wow. 2-2.
Wow.
Come
Oh.
on, Don. Let's see who can get the weekly point.
Well, this
Not
is
even weekly. The very rare point that we actually do games that have a score.
considering the final question. This might actually quite literally be a sudden death.
Oh, God.
Oh gosh. Okay. Are they still bananas?
These are bananas still,
Okay.
and I'm going to tell you, this is in millions. Just
2.7 million.
just because we're being wildly off at this.
Okay.
Okay.
He's fucking
So-
with us. It's 10.
What is the fatal dose of bananas to kill you through radiation alone within 2 weeks?
Oh, I actually know this.
Within 2 weeks.
Within 2 weeks. How many bananas would you have to eat for the radiation to kill you within 2 weeks?
Oh, I don't know this.
And just for an example, it is in the millions.
I have actually written my numbers too far to one side of the board.
I would. You just write a single number and we'll say it's that many millions. I think that might make it easier.
No, because I've written zeros now.
Okay, Joe's written 0, so
Not
How have
zero. Zeros.
zzz.
One could have guessed what Don was going to write. 3, 2, 1. Don?
I've gone with 270 million.
And I've gone with 312 million.
Oh, it's so close.
Is it in between? It's not in between, is it?
No.
Okay, good.
God damn it.
It's not in between, but because you're quite close, it's either higher or lower. So, is it higher or lower?
That is how it works if it's not in between.
The answer is 100 million bananas.
No!
Booyah banana!
So, Don, you take the victory. You won the
this
sudden
week's
death.
point. Oh.
And you get a banana at the end of the episode.
Oh,
Or-
wow.
Oh,
well,
I love
mean,
a banana.
Do you want a banana after this?
I'd love one, yeah.
You know
I'd
what?
love
I'm
some
glad I didn't
radiation.
win. I hate bananas.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what I always hate? It's the Chernobyl yellow amoxicillin that tastes like bananas.
Chernobyl yellow.
Is that what's in the banana milkshake in McDonald's?
No. Do you know when you're a kid and you get amoxicillin? And it's that
No.
fluorescent yellow colour?
Oh, yeah.
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 I hated that as a kid.
Vaguely.
They gave me strawberry once and I loved it. And then, it's banana
And then
flavour.
it was problematic because Josh was just consuming all the strawberry antibiotics that they had.
Yeah.
This man is a walking superbug. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you
Okay.
have any? Did you guys have any favorite medication when you were younger?
Oh, Calpol. Calpol tablets. Calpol melt on your tongue tablets.
I never had those.
Phenomenal.
But when
I'd
I was
still
growing
have them
up,
now.
I think
don't, but I would.
a popular one in Sri Lanka was this thing called gripe water.
Yeah, we still have it over
Do
here.
you still have that here?
What is great water?
I think it's for when you have a tummy ache, but it's just like this really, really sweet, sugary syrup. It's just water, but it had a really nice texture. Just because it came out of a bottle, it was the exact same texture as water, same viscosity as water, but it just, because it came from a bottle, it felt special.
Ooh.
See, in Ireland, for any of our Irish listeners, I gather that people manage a sick stomach in kids with a flat can of 7-Up.
Yeah, it
Yes,
works.
we did that as well.
Yeah.
And brandy.
Brandy.
Brandy was used for all kinds of things.
How old were you when you were first being given brandy
Probably
medicinally?
like 5.
Wait, was this in Saudi Arabia?
Don't say anything.
I will not comment on that. No, it was in Sri Lanka. Whenever we'd go on holiday to Sri Lanka and I'd get a stomach ache, they'd give us brandy.
Okay. For those that aren't watching the video version of this, Don is looking very sketchy right now.
Okay, so I grew up in Saudi Arabia until I was 9, and obviously there's no alcohol there. But people find ways. In fact, my parents once made wine at home.
Wow.
You're just incriminating your parents so much here now.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Alcohol-free wine, obviously.
Alcohol-free
Yeah,
wine.
just grape juice.
Just grape juice, yeah.
juice.
I do like
Anyway.
a bit of grape juice, yeah.
Moving on. I think there's a very important question that we have to ask ourselves this week, as we do every episode, which is, what would the Egyptians do?
The ancient Egyptians, just to clarify.
Yeah. Ancient Egyptian laxative of the week.
This time, it's rose.
Oh.
And where's that rose going?
It's unclear.
Oh, is it though?
It's no. The location is not unclear. You know where it's going.
Oh my gosh. I
The
bet they just had like
suppository where
a...
it's supposed to be.
I think they just had a calendar where it was like every month we'll just put something new up our butts.
But it wasn't clear whether the rose was like rose water, whether it was like powdered rose, or whether it was just like a rose, because the thorn was what I was worried about.
I think it's a bunch of rose petals that they've rolled into a little
Pessary.
cylinder. What's it called?
Like a little rose pessary, maybe?
Pessary. That's
Not to be
it.
confused with a cassowary, which is an angry New Zealand bird.
Maybe that'll be one of the Egyptian laxatives of the week. Who knows?
Oh, God.
Ugh.
Yeah, maybe it could be rolled up pessary.
Yeah.
Cool. And yeah, I think we're spiraling towards the end of the episode. Don?
I'm sorry, I'm still thinking about the pessary. And just, you're taking something so beautiful and doing that with it.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good point to end the show on.
And on that, yes, we have taken something not so beautiful like pain and turned it into something beautiful like information about pain.
Yes.
Hopefully that has helped.
And is there a way that you can show gratitude if you've enjoyed it?
There is. Wait, yes, there is. You could try out our Patreon.
What can you find there?
Yes, you can find all sorts on our Patreon. Behind the scenes, just us mumbling to each other, tripping over coffee tables.
You can see us doing more towards our Etsy segment. You can
Yes.
see things from back in our 20-hour challenge. You can hear Josh's wonderful progress that you might have missed in the episodes of his recorder playing.
You can hear his ridiculous laugh.
This is
Oh.
true. Oh, you can
happened.
hear a remix that I've done of his laugh into a
Yes.
popular pop song.
Oh, yeah.
There is so much on there, and even more besides what we've already said. So, and on that wonderful note, thank you very much again for listening to Pain the Podcast, and we will see you next time.
See you later.
Adios.